Mezuhu Louis, Barbara J. Robles, Betsy Leander Wright, Rose Brewer, and Rebecca Adamson are a group of progressive academics who wanted to educate their students about social inequality and also teach workshops about economic disparities in the United States. Their book, The Color of Wealth, The Story Behind the U.S. Racial Wealth Divide, is being taught in economics classes around the nation. Policy Steps Toward Closing the Gap is Chapter 60, and in this chapter, the authors address social change as it relates to economic inequality in the United States and the growing disparity between wealthier social classes and the rest of society. In today's economy, more than ever, you need an education to get ahead. Even for a menial job, a high school diploma is often required. Current mechanisms for public school funding, largely local property taxes, enable wealthier families in white suburbs who pay more property taxes to have more dollars invested in their public schools. Disparity in funding produces disparities in educational outcomes and perpetuates a class and race divide. The infusion of federal dollars to invest more in communities that are poor could help close the gap. Free public universities came about in 1862, the same year as the Homestead Act, when the Morrill Act established land-grant colleges in every state. Their purpose was to provide knowledge and skills to the newly landed masses. Public institutions of higher education were the ticket out of poverty for many people of color who could not afford tuition at private colleges. Today, affordable higher education is moving out of the reach for many of our children. The federal government spends $55 billion on student aid, but the mix has been changing. 77% of that aid is in loans, not grants, a reversal of past policies. The authors argue that we can change the mix back again and raise new taxes to invest in public colleges. We should do this because a well-educated populace is a cornerstone of democracy, and the cornerstone is crumbling. For those who don't speak English as their first language, English classes are the first stepping stones to success. It is not possible to get a decent job without English skills. For many immigrants, long waiting lists for free or affordable classes prevent them from obtaining skills necessary and essential for entry of limited English speakers into the U.S. workforce. On the other hand, so that non-English speakers do not get cheated out of their assets or miss out on the benefits of programs which they qualify, English-only practices and policies must be rejected. Today, income disparity lays the groundwork for future wealth disparities. The Economic Policy Institute has done several studies that reveal that an increase in the minimum wage would primarily benefit full and part-time workers of low-income families, which are disproportionately headed by single women of color. It would require raising the minimum wage to at least $8.10 an hour as of 2004 for a family of four to move above the official poverty line. Around the country, people are organizing for more than a minimum wage. They are demanding a living wage. Since the cost of living varies across the country, communities are calculating costs particular to their cities. And what about maximum wage? In most countries, the ratio of CEO pay to worker pay has been around 40-1. In the United States in 2004, the ratio of CEO pay to the average worker's pay was 431-1. Representative Martin Sabo of Minnesota wants to curb that excess. His proposed Income Equity Act would prevent corporations from claiming tax deductions on any executive pay that totals over 25 times what a company's lowest paid workers are earning. The poorest group in the United States is women of color and their children. They require government help to survive. For many years, it was mainly white women who received welfare payments. However, President Reagan's caricature of welfare queens stereotyped as a woman of color created backlash. In 1996, the program changed to temporary assistance to needy families. To qualify for the meager payments, women cannot have assets of more than $1,000 in some states. One positive tax provision for the poor is the Earned Income Tax Credit, or EITC. Democratic Senator Russell Long of Louisiana proposal provided tax relief to low-income workers rather than guaranteed income for all. EITC has lifted more families with children out of poverty than any other government program. Decent pay and accumulation of assets is hard to come by if you're not allowed citizenship. As we have seen, immigrant status has been a major barrier to economic equality for people of color. Being forced into low-paid jobs because of their tenuous legal status, coupled with the need to send money home, makes it difficult to build assets in either country. The National Coalition for Dignity and Amnesty developed a proposal for a Federal Freedom Act. It will legalize undocumented immigrants currently living in the United States and create a status of temporary residency for future migrants who would be eligible for permanent residency after 3 years. People of color should be hired into jobs for which they are qualified and to rise to the level of their capabilities. Affirmative action, won through the civil rights movement, did bring many more people of color into middle-income jobs where they could begin to save, buy homes, and build wealth. However, the gap is still not closed. Over the course of history, the federal government has used public resources to create wealth-building starter kits as well as continuing subsidies for whites, as has removed assets from people of color and denied them the benefits given to whites. In recent years, the white middle class has taken a hit. Overall, it's shrinking and general economic inequality has reached great levels. While there are many ways to group asset building opportunities, the Asset Policy Initiative of California has designed a framework that is simple and user-friendly. They see that strategies in 4 areas are needed. Asset accumulation is about policy strategies that encourage families to save. Asset leveraging policies help low-wealth families use their limited savings to get loans for larger assets such as homes and business ownership. Unfortunately, if there is no asset preservation assistance programs, often low-wealth people lose everything they have to predatory lenders. And finally, asset creation goes beyond individual strategies. Communities can gain control over development in their own neighborhoods and rural communities.